Hi, my name is Thorkil Sohn and I'm secretary of the Danish Justice Party. And this party has done something as unusual as to send a letter to the new Pope. And I'll read the letter here. It is enclosed with a gift, a book, and then tell a little about the book. And I hope you'll forgive me my poor English. It is not my native language, but I'll try at my best ability to make me understandable. And now the letter. Ringkøbing, Denmark. Ringkøbing is a city in Denmark. May the 28th, 2025. To His Holiness Pope Leo XIV, Apostolic Palace in Vatican City. Most Holy Father, congratulations on your Holiness's appointment as the supreme earthly leader of the Holy Catholic Church. I allow myself to address your Holiness on behalf of the Danish Justice Party, as our ideas are inspired by the American social-economic thinker Henry George. He wrote the book The Condition of Labor as an open message to Pope Leo XIII, whom your Holiness has chosen as namesake. And I allow myself to assume that because Pope Leo XIII had a special focus on social problems, this may be one of the reasons for your Holiness to take the same name. The conditions and solutions to which Henry George then drew to the attention of both Pope Leo XIII and the world public opinion are still relevant today. If social problems are to be remedied in a just and lasting way in accordance with both the moral law and the principles of Christian faith. I hope your Holiness finds the book relevant and useful, and that it can contribute to the great social task of alleviating need and poverty, a task to which it must be the duty of all people and also of both the Church and all Christians to contribute. Enclosed as a gift, The Condition of Labor by Henry George. With respect, Thorkil Sohn, Secretary of the Danish Justice Party, and then my address, Bildtsvej 26, 6950, that's a postal code, Ringkøbing, that's the city, Denmark. And then I'll tell a little about the book and read from the beginning. The Condition of Labor was published in 1891 as an open letter to Pope Leo XIII. He was Pope from 1878 until he died in 1903, who had published a pastoral letter on the labor questions, as he called it, and it was all the social problems that had arisen in these days because of the growing industrial cities where people lived under very, very poor conditions. And he has published a pastoral letter on the labor question in which the Pope particularly attacks Henry George's teaching about the equal right of all people to the land. In the Condition of Labor, which is a published book in the form of this open letter to the Pope, Henry George attempts to refute the Pope's argument. Here I'll first read a little from the book, from the introduction addressed to the Pope, and then, as I said before, the beginning of the book's first chapter. And I hope that'll make you want to read more, you'll find the book easily on by googling it. The language is of course marked by the occasion. Modern atheists and agnostics may be offended by Henry George's description of the earth as created by God, and I also use Christian terms in the letter to the Pope. This is, of course, because the letter is addressed to the Pope and because Henry George himself was a Christian, although without adhering to a particular denomination. If the word God offends you, please replace it with nature, and thus also get some benefit from listening to this video. And now I read the introduction in the book, The Condition of Labor, and a little from the first chapter. To Pope Leo XIII, now we are back in 1891. Your Holiness, writes George, I have read with care your encyclical letter on the condition of labor addressed through the patriarchs, primates, archbishops, and bishops of your faith to the Christian world. Since its most strikingly pronounced condemnations are directed against a theory which we who hold it know to be deserving of your support, I ask permission to lay before your Holiness the grounds of our belief, and to set forth some considerations that you have unfortunately overlooked. The monstrous seriousness of the facts you refer to, and that is the poverty, the suffering, and seething discontent that pervade the Christian world, the danger that passion may lead ignorance in a blind struggle against social conditions rapidly becoming intolerable. That is my justification for writing to the Pope. And now I read a little from the first chapter. Our postulates are all stated or implied in your encyclical. They are the primary perceptions of human reasons, the fundamental teaching of the Christian faith. We hold that this world is a creation of God. The men brought into it for the brief period of their earthly lives are the equal creatures of his bounty, the equal subject of his provident care. By his constitution, man is beset by physical wants, on the satisfaction of which depend not only the maintenance of his physical life, but also the development of his intellectual and spiritual life. God has made the satisfaction of these wants dependent on man's own exertions, giving him the power and laying on him the injunction to labor, a power of itself that of itself raises him far above the brute, since we may reverently say that it enables him to become, as it were, a helper in the creative work. God has not put man on the task of making bricks without straw. With the need for labor and the power to labor, he has also given to man the material for labor. The material is the land, man physically being a land animal who can live only on and from the land and can only use other elements such as air, sunshine, and water by the use of land. Being the equal creatures of the Creator, equality entitled under his providence to live their lives and satisfy their needs, men are equally entitled to the use of land, and any adjustment that denies this equal use of land is morally wrong. as to right of ownership, we hold that, being created individuals with individual wants and powers, men are individually entitled, subject of course to the moral obligations that arise from such relations as that of family, but they are individually entitled to the use of their own powers and the enjoyment of the results. Their rose arises anterior to human law and deriving its validity from the law of God, a right of private ownership in things produced by labor, a right that possessor may transfer, but of which to deprive him without his will is theft. The right of property, originating in the right of the individual to himself, is the only full and complete right of property. It attaches to things produced by labor, but cannot attach to things created by God. Thus, if a man take a fish from the ocean, he acquires the right of property in that fish, which exclusive right he may transfer by sale or gift, but he cannot obtain a similar right of property in the ocean, so that he may sell it or give it or forbid others to use it. Or, if he set up a windmill, he acquires a right of property in the things such use of wind enables him to produce, but he cannot claim a right of property in the wind himself, so that he may sell or forbid others to use it. Or if he cultivate grain, he acquires a right of property in the grain his labor brings forth, but he cannot obtain a similar right of property in the sun which ripened it or the soil on which it grew. For these things are the continuing gifts of God to all generations of men, which all may use, but none may claim as his alone. To attach to things created by God the same right of private ownership that justly attaches to things produced by labor is to impair and deny the true rights of property. For a man who, out of the proceeds of his labor, is obligated to pay another man for the use of ocean or air or sunshine or soil, all of which are to men involved in the single term land, is in this deprived of his rightful property, and thus robbed. As to the use of land, we hold that, while the right of ownership that justly attaches to things produced by labor cannot attach to land, they may attach to land a right of possession, as your Holiness says, and he quotes the letter from the Holiness. God has created the earth to mankind in general, not in the sense that all without distinction can deal with it as they please. End of quote. And George continues, and regulations necessary for its best use may be fixed by human laws, but such regulation must conform to the moral law, must secure to all equal participation in the advantages of God's general bounty. The principle is the same as where a human father leaves property equally to a number of children. Some of the things thus left may be incapable of common use or of specific division. Such things may probably be assigned to some of the children, but only under the condition that the equality of benefit among them all be preserved. And here I'll stop the reading and hope you have acquired a desire to learn more or to read more. And then I say thank you, Thorkil Sohn, Bildtsvej 2669. Bildtsvej 6. Now I'm speaking Danish. With regards, Thorkil Sohn, Bildtsvej 26 6950, Ringkøbing, Denmark. Thank you if you have listened.